Right, so the inevitable question is, how do you know that the brake booster is leaking? Well, if you don't, you might hear the hiss back here under the passenger side wheel well. It's a pretty obvious sound once you get your ear in. It's a bit hard to hear over the engine noise, but you get there. I've made a blanking plate for this so I can test this one. But when it's on the car, there's a vacuum hose that comes directly off the vacuum pump. This is all in the diesel HDIs. Okay, so if you have a petrol car, you're on your own. So directly off the vacuum pump, which is on the opposite side of the engine of the auxiliary belt, and there's a wee slip-on nozzle or slip-on fitting here. So there's a little piece of gray plastic. You press that, and then that will slip right off. Now attached to that, the larger hose will come from the vacuum pump to here, and then there's a wee join here, and then it connects to here, and then two hoses head out that way to the turbo servos. So if you take your budget vacuum meter, of which this is, and basically this goes on the end of this pipe here, and you plug this into that hose that clips on here directly from the vacuum pump, even though it still has the connection out to your turbo servos, if there's no leaks out on those, what you'll pick up here is about 670 millimeters of mercury, or about 26 inches. Is that inches? Whatever it is. Yeah, 26, what does that say? Inches of mercury. Yeah, so you end up with about 26 inches of mercury there. If you rev the motor, it'll go up and down slightly, but it'll stay pretty stable. If at that point you have substantially less than that, then I would say you probably have a leak down in your turbo pipes or in the pipe coming from the vacuum pump. So in mine, I basically had good vacuum at that point. Now, if I reconnect that hose here and take off one of the pipes going to the servo on my old brake booster and check the mercury, I ended up with way down here, nothing. Pretty much nothing. So basically, neither was the brake booster working or the turbo servos. I made a blanking plate for this. There's a previous video that shows me putting in the seal underneath the back. But anyway, I made a blanking plate for the front of this just to check and make sure this thing is going to be okay. So I'm not putting in, taking out a bad one and putting in a bad one. And when I plug the pipe in here, and very gentle pressure here, like you can barely press this now, very gentle pressure here, and you feel the brake actually working properly, the brake assist working properly. The other thing that you'll find is, and it's really easy to connect this servo or this brake booster, even with the other one still in the car, there's enough room on that pipe to just kind of lay this in here and connect that. So if you do get a secondhand one, it's a simple blanking plate here. I've just got a piece of a bicycle inner tube covering the hole that the master cylinder would be on. Drilled a couple of holes in a piece of MDF, put a couple of bolts on it, cinched it up. Pretty simple. So if you want to check a secondhand one, make that blanking plate. Hook the hose coming from the vacuum pump there. Take off one of the pipes, the vacuum pipes leading to the turbo servo. And of course, being a smaller pipe, you'd expect slightly less vacuum. And on this one, on my older one that was failed, like I said, I get pretty much nothing way down here. On this one here with the new seal in it, I'm up here. Not exactly the same height as I get directly out of the vacuum pump. I expect that. I expect there to be a slight amount of pressure difference because I'm dealing with a smaller pipe coming out of that junction, And obviously there's vacuum being applied to the other pipe as well. So not knowing exactly what those are, but it's way up in here, which is where it should be. So now I can feel confident that putting this in, I will solve both the brake boost problems and the turbo wastegate servo problems as well. So that's it. Pretty straightforward. I didn't do that I could have done that on the car, but I figured, you know, with an explanation, you can kind of figure it out. This stuff ain't rocket science. It's just French car science. Right. Good luck.